everybody. Hello, welcome to Blood and Popcorn. I am TJ Rotell, and with me, as always, are my horror co-hosts, Denise Pantoja and Glenn Akers. Guys, happy July of the Living Dead.
Happy.
We took last weekend off, and we're getting started this weekend with some classics. But I think before we dive into what we're going to talk about, let's talk about how we're going to talk about it. Because that's right, folks. As we're wont to do here on Channel 29, we flipped the script a little. We changed up the format of the show for this month because we feel that when you're going to talk about the legend that is George Romero and some of the remakes that his original masterpieces spawned, you treat it with a little more reverence. So we are still going to be throwing out our overall enjoyability of these movies as we go through the month. But overall, this will be more of a roundtable discussion style, as all of the episodes this month are double features. And tonight, we kick things off with the OG, the triple OG, double triple OG, George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, 1968, black and white, 4:3 classic. And then we're going to shift gears into the 1990 Tom Savini, blessed by and presented by George Romero remake of Night of the Living Dead. Guys, this is exciting stuff. How are you both this evening? How are you doing?
Great.
I'm really good too. This is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, that's excellent. And hello to everyone in chat. Hello, Mo. I see Mo jumped in and said hi. I don't know who else is in there, but hello to you too.
It's very interesting because we are of two different camps, and we'll get more into that a little more later. This also being one of my favorite films. I know it's one of TJ's favorite films as well, but we do have different thoughts on which version
is the superior.
Yep, we do.
But I'll say this.
I would say superior. I would say preferred, because there's also what are you introduced to initially? What introduces you to that world? And that always holds a different place in your heart, I think, than
for sure
other things.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I mean, for me, I know we talked about it a little earlier, but for me, the remake was the first Night of the Living Dead that I'd seen. Mm. And so that one stuck with me and is my favorite. And I can't wait to talk about how much I love that one, because I do very much enjoy the original, but I know you two had some very interesting counterpoint. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
Counterpoint stuff.
I think we'll get into that.
I'm excited to get into that. But we got two movies to go through tonight, guys. 68 and 90. Two movies that are very similar, yet very, very different. Yes. And it's not just because of the aspect ratio or the fact that one was color and one was black and white. There are some very large differences. And let's kick things off with the original, 1968. Glenn, take us back. The year is 1968. A young Pittsburghian, a lanky chain smoker standing at what I assume is 8'6". George Romero's a tall dude. He's like 6'8". Like, he's up there. He's like a crazy tall. Yeah, he's a tall cat, or was a tall cat. I mean, big box. Yeah, he says, I'm gonna make a movie about ghouls and they eat human flesh, and then he does. True. Tell us about that journey, Glenn.
I feel like I should get in the mood to talk about this first, so let me do something real quick.
Do it. Right. What? Look at this guy.
Very expensive NASA technology that I have
Zoom
on my computer.
D, we can all do it.
I want to do it.
Yeah, this is fun.
Sorry, Glenn.
We're all gonna do it now.
Wait, how do you do it?
Go into.
I didn't use Zoom to do it.
Oh, you can use Zoom to do it. Go into the little arrow by your video button on Zoom, and choose video filter.
I got none. None are here.
None.
Yeah.
Well, that's just crazy. Well, Denise can't
under eyes. I'm glad about that. Awesome. So happy about that.
There we go. Now I'm kind of black and white.
Why don't I have it?
I'm gonna do sepia.
Ooh,
So it's
like one of those terrible colorized versions that you can watch online.
oh god,
Oh,
that's this one here. It's like, oh, it's real bad.
why
All right,
can't I do it?
I'm not gonna do it in solidarity with Denise.
But I
Glenn,
want it. But I
what a
want
great
it.
gimmick! What a great gimmick you've come up with, Glenn, and we appreciate
Yes.
Well,
you
he
putting in
wanted to
the extra
be by
effort.
himself. So there, Glenn, you have it. You're
You
special.
have the floor, Glenn. Take us away. Take us to Pittsburgh, 1968.
I mean, I was there. I saw it when it first came out. It was great. Um, no, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about uh, things that I don't know because I wasn't there, but there are some interesting things.
Why are you on the show then?
Ah,
Glenn's not here to discuss. He's here to drink beers and watch television.
right. I mean, I don't want to go too much into things that like have already been said since so much has been written and talked about and
Mhm.
produced about this particular version of the movie. Uh, I mean, who hasn't seen an article about Night of the Living Dead and what it did or didn't do?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I will say because I didn't realize this until I was much older, and sadly didn't realize this that zombies in culture in general, up until this movie, weren't flesh eaters.
They weren't cannibals.
I didn't know that until actually several times after watching this movie, and maybe I was the only one that didn't know that. But
I
I
didn't
thought that
know
was
that.
I didn't find that out until later as well.
I didn't know that.
I mean I knew there were zombies beforehand. Like I Walked with Zombie and White Zombie, some of those
Yeah.
movies from way back when.
Yeah, people that
I
would come
hadn't
back
seen
from
them.
the dead, like in
Right,
some sort of waking state zombie,
right.
not
They were
necessarily cannibalistic humanoid.
right. I always thought they were cannibalistic because I grew up in an era past 1968 when that watershed moment happened that this movie was released. So like once I found that out, that kind of blew my mind because you always hear that Night of the Living Dead is like the grandfather of the zombie genre, which it is. There's
Mhm.
no there's no denying that.
Mm-mm.
I didn't realize what significance it had in that regard. I that it still blows my mind when I think about it. Like they literally, well, there's no book, but they wrote the book on the rules of zombies. They eat
Yeah.
flesh.
We
You
all
have to
kind of
kill the
followed
brain.
You
the
got to,
day.
yeah, you shoot him in the head.
Even until like the show that's still getting made. Are they still making The Walking Dead?
Hey, Mac Morden, I didn't update the command. Sorry, I've been moving.
Whoops.
It's Night of the Living Dead, Night of the
What
Living
have you
Dead double feature.
done?
We came back from our vacation in Florida and are back into the Northeast.
Yeah,
Uh, wow. I had a thought and it just went away.
I don't know what it was.
Must have been the radiation. Uh,
Oh, good pull. I like that.
Thank
I like
you.
that, Glenn.
I, I'm normally not at a loss of words, but I love this movie so much that I have a hard time expressing why it's so good and important, or at least for me. Um, I think everybody knows that, like, famously, uh, it fell into public domain, sadly, much to the chagrin of
George Romero got screwed.
Ramiro and everyone else that worked on this
Awful.
movie.
What an awful thing
Uh,
to happen.
and the way it happened, apparently, is actually pretty interesting. So, like, when they were initially scripting this movie, their like working title during the scripting phase was just monster flick, which is the most generic
Yeah.
thing you can put on a page.
And it feels that way a little bit. I think I'd mentioned that at the when we started watching it, Denise and I said, this has this because believe it or not, this is only like the second or third time I've ever seen this original version, and I said this has that like old school like Universal monster vibe to
It
it,
does.
like not just because it's black and white, but everything. Like it feels like the camera work, like a lot of it is very much felt like there was a monster coming, which there was a bunch of them.
There was.
A whole bunch
It's
of them.
true.
Who knew?
Um, and then once they started to film, like even you can see in the scant few behind the scenes shots that there are, they initially were calling it on the slate, the clapperboard, whatever you want to call it, Night of the Flesh Eaters or Flesh Eaters. And apparently, some other movie come out early 60s, late 50s, whatever, that was just called Flesh Eaters, and they got word of it and sent them a legal cease and desist order to stop calling it that, even though they were just shooting, so it doesn't really matter. So they had to change it from Night of the Flesh Eaters, and apparently what happened was Ramiro was like, fuck it, we'll call it something that no one else is going to call it. And its working title, and even almost release title, was called Night of Anubis, or Anubis, however you want to say it, the Egyptian god of mummification or something.
Oh wow, Anubis.
Anubis, thank you, man. Words.
It's all good, dude. I got you.
Is this thing on?
What's that, Denise? We can't hear you. What's that? What was that, Denise? Speak into the microphone a little bit. What?
Huh?
What were you saying? What? Let me listen. If I listen to the microphone, maybe I'll.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Oh.
And then once they decided on that, and even made a title of it, there's a work print where you can see where it has the same title, where it says Night of Living Dead, but instead of Living Dead, it says, I'm not even going to try to say it again.
Anubis.
Anubis. Thank you. It literally says it on the print. What happened was their distributor at the time was like, nobody's going to know what the fuck that is. Get rid of that title. And they hastily did it and fixed their prints. And when they did that, they didn't put a copyright on it.
There was a disclaimer.
Oh, what a heartbreaker.
That existed underneath the title, and they left it off.
Yeah, because they had to change it so quickly.
And the distributors made all the money.
Yeah.
Gross.
And because of that, they, as in Ramiro and the producers and crew and whatever, didn't have a claim to it because they didn't put the copyright disclaimer on it.
Oh, it's so
I hate shit like that. That really and truly and honestly is one of the main reasons I'm starting my company, is that I don't want the world to be that way. Like I really dislike that. Like I could never imagine being like, ooh, someone made a mistake and now I'm going to steal their art forever. Like that just seems like such a garbage person thing to do. You know, fuck you, those people who did that. This is right here. From all of us to all of you, you pieces of shit. R.I.P. George Romero.
Agreed. Thankfully, that rule has been overturned. You don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to put it on there. And I think that got overturned like a few years after.
Of course.
Yeah.
This was a movie that people cared about, I'm sure. The mainstream Hollywood fat cats were all the buzz about back in '68.
They weren't, ironically.
Interestingly enough, talking about like just sort of barely missing that cutoff. Are you going to talk about the MPAA?
Go ahead. But yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I just want you to transition. I'm helping you transition into the MPAA conversation.
That's a tough society to transition into, Denise. I don't know if he'll make it in the MPAA. Glenn is...
I won't.
He would be a hard R, that's for sure, if not NC-17. Glenn kicks the door in with a hard R. Like he strolls through the door, hard R out on the table.
He would be past a hard R.
This is who I am, and this is day one. By
a month, So the MPAA didn't have their rating system until like November of, was it 68?
Yeah.
And they released.
This is one of the last films to get released without a rating.
October of 68, which is huge because we were talking about this, and I'll let you take over here, Glenn. It was a shock to the system. It was a shock to everybody, the gore and the violence. And it's funny because I was talking about that and I'm like, I know I grew up in like a different era. I did not grow up in 68. I don't know what it was like then, but I watch it now and I'm like, what gore? And like, what's everybody talking like? I saw nothing shocking because I've grown up with Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and
Right.
you know, Jason Voorhees. Like I've grown up with the Chuckies and, you know, Scream.
It makes you wonder, like, how fucking desensitized am I? Like, oh my god,
150%,
where
that's a
I
huge
watch monsters eating human flesh,
and
and
I'm
I
like,
go,
I
I
can't.
mean, like,
I mean,
I
it's not that
mean,
bad.
it's not
Not
terrible,
widescreen.
you know. It's not that dude from 13 Ghosts getting cut in half sideways with sliding glass doors and then seeing all of it. Like, that's the kind of shit that makes me go, oh, damn. But like, yeah, like some dude eating a fucking turkey leg in the middle of a field in Pittsburgh. Like, no, like I'm not fucking
Hand
like,
covered in chocolate
that's not
syrup.
gross to me. That's not.
Yeah. So I'll let you take over from here, Glenn, because you were
Part of the MPAA in 1970.
I was. No.
You are in black and white, Glenn. You have no defense.
That's true. I did do that to myself.
Yeah.
This was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. The story is convoluted and stupid, so I'll keep it short. I had fairly strict parents who didn't allow me to watch horror movies, probably rightfully so. Overactive imaginations, nightmares, yada yada. I skirted my way around it. Whatever. One of the first movies I ever bought was Night of the Living Dead, and it was on VHS. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you are, I bought the 30th anniversary, and this is going to tell you exactly how old I am if you know what year that came out. And I was like 11-ish, I think, when I bought it.
Everybody's like,
well, now they know. Now they know how old you were, Glenn.
Right. Up until
You told them.
then,
You ruined the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if people can do math. I can't.
No.
Up until then, all I had really seen horror movie wise were your classic Universal, some Hammer, basically truly like bloodless horror movies, like actually bloodless horror movies.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with them. The original Frankenstein, still terrifying. Bela Lugosi, all of them, great.
You know what's really funny is I'm like black and white movies in general creep me out.
Okay.
Like I don't watch the classics. Like I don't watch Citizen Kane or like Gone with the Wind or
That's in color.
Doctor Strangelove, whatever. Whatever. Like insert black and white movie here. And because they creep me out. Black and white creeps me out. But
and you're creeping him out right now.
the old Universal movies like the Wolfmans and stuff, those don't scare me at all. Like
Sure.
not even a little bit. Like I'm just like monster, neat. But that's how I was as a kid. I was like fun. Like I think if I had to say where the credit might come from, and now that I think of this, my therapist would be so proud of bringing back repressed memories. I was in Florida. It was my first time going to Florida, I believe, going to Disney World. I think it was the first time. Or it was the second. What? It was sometime in my youth. Okay, don't back off. So anyway, yo, what up, Epic? There used to be a show at Universal Studios that was like a rock and roll character show with the Universal monsters. So you had like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman and I can't remember who else was there, like Creature maybe. Like I can't remember who all was in the group, but they would do like Monster Mash. Yeah, Mummy was probably in there and shit like that. And I remember seeing those monsters. I knew them as rock stars. I knew the Wolfman shredding on a guitar, and me as a young kid going, someday I'm gonna be the Wolfman. And then they killed that show before I ever got my shot. It was one of the reasons I moved to California was to be in that show. And I got there only to find that show wasn't in California. They didn't do it there. And I was like, God damn, I should have moved to Florida, son of a bitch.
There has to be video of that. I need to find that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, because there's like Midnight Hour was one that they did. And I remember like one of the lyrics was like that funky dude called Frankenstein was like they would change up the lyrics to suit the monsters. And I think, you know, Bad to the Bone, I think, was the one the Wolfman
Sure.
did. And he had a bone.
Sure.
Okay,
I'm gonna have to find
I've
that. That
completely
sounds-
derailed us. I'm very sorry, but
If you have
I
what
haven't remembered that. But I was sitting here thinking, I wonder what was the thing that made me fall in love with horror, because Glenn was like, this was one of the first horror movies I saw, and it made me think, like, I don't remember what the first horror movie was that I saw. So
I don't know what my first one was. This is what I considered. You could debate this, but like what I consider the first modern horror movie.
yeah,
Because I think Night of the Living Dead is the movie that shut the door, even though it is in black and white, on like old school horror movies, and kind of kick the door open for modern horror movies.
mm-hmm.
Granted, it doesn't look like Saw.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
See, and I love Saw.
Can you imagine a
No, I do.
1916 Saw?
Can you? The filmmakers would be arrested. Like they'd be thrown in jail for making Saw.
Finish your story, Glenn.
No one would believe that it wasn't real.
Right. I mean, people did have that happen to them.
Fucking Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, rightfully so. I'm still not sure that was not real. Not real. Anyways,
I don't know, I'm not judging.
They definitely killed that turtle. Oh, poor turtle.
Fuck assholes.
But anyways, yeah, this was I think probably my first like modern horror movie. Like up until then, I hadn't seen much blood and gore, really.
Yeah.
I think the scariest movie I'd seen up until that time was Village of the Damned, which I still
Scary.
say is scary because
Yeah.
glowing-eyed, psychotic children are terrifying. Period.
Children in general scare the shit out of me. So
Agreed.
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, like even today, like I don't watch this all the time because I like it so much, and I can't rewatch it all the time because I want to keep it in this like place in my head of like greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I can't overdo it like I've done Indiana Jones, Back to the Future,
Indiana Jones and
Star Wars, like seen them all like a trillion times. That's whatever. That's a tangent I'm not going to go on.
Hey, I just did for a long time about the Universal Monsters rock show.
So next week we're going to continue to talk about Night of the Living Dead. Now that you know about all of our childhoods.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah. I will say that like watching it again now as an adult, the scene. Yeah, agreed. I did rewatch.
That was the joke.
You're right, Epic. I just rewatched that. I shouldn't have done that.
That was a bad move, Glenn. I don't judge your choices often, but that one I will judge. You've been judged.
I wanted to give it a fair shake. It's still not good.
You should have fair shook it right out the fucking window. Throw that disc like a frisbee, man.
If you follow me on Instagram, I point out a terrible editing mistake they made in it, but whatever.
I do follow you on Instagram.
I don't.
I just haven't looked at Instagram in a while.
That's fine. There's no reason to look up. I'm not going to mention it.
I'm kidding. I do. I follow you so I can say fuck you for living next door to me practically for 6 years and never cooking for me like you just cooked. Like
this is the other account, the non-food account.
This is sorry. Odd Movie Master.
Yeah. You have another one? Oh my gosh, aren't we?
Yeah, Glenn's a social media mogul now, Denise. You missed it.
Right?
No one follows.
This show has made him so famous. He's so, and his head's gotten huge.
Glenn, are those
all he does is
trying to get through your window, or
wandering around talking shit on John Carpenter all the time. Now he's just left and right.
No. Hold on.
Right up and down.
Listen.
Oh, there it is. The DP for the DP. If only you were also a director of photography, D.
Hashtag. Oh shit! I will do it. I'll do it. Challenge accepted. Hashtag not sponsored. But would like to be.
It's not sponsored.
Yeah. Watching this as an adult, I will say the Matra and patricide scene still, to me, is very effective and scary and kind of hard to watch. There are other parts, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I will say, like, I think there's still credibility to this movie, not just because of what it did and what it spawned, but like it still can hold and pack a punch if you've never seen it.
Sure.
And you go into it with the right mind, I should say. Again, like don't go into it being expecting Saw or
Yeah.
No.
something else.
Mac Morton
anyway,
saying
I've
one of his
droned on.
first movies was An American Werewolf in London. Yeah, big fan of that one. That was one of my,
Agreed.
I think one of my first as well.
Mhm.
I like my first real horror memory. And D, I don't know if you've got one of these. Was and I know that the time it was I was in second grade. I don't know what year that was, but that was what it was. And I had an allergic reaction to some medication, and I got hives, and I had to stay home from school. And my neighbor worked at a video store at the local like market that had that kind of thing at the time, as was common at the time. And she was like, "Do you want me to bring you any movies back?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Nightmare on Elm Street 3." And she was like, "Is that your parents going to be okay with that?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Were you lying? Were you lying?
I mean, I don't think so. They were pretty hip. We watched America's Most Wanted. I had nightmares about the.
We watched America's Most
so
Wanted.
I'm sure it was fine.
See, that's the irony. Like
And those guys are
our
real.
arrow would be like,
yeah,
"That's
the
fine."
Zodiac Killer gave me nightmares. That dude gave me fucking nightmares. Let me tell you about me.
The real Zodiac Killer, or
The real Zodiac. The real Zodiac Killer from America's Most Wanted. That dude, nightmares.
I did not watch American.
I mean, not gonna lie, but like when I was a kid, walking through the grocery store and seeing the photos of Bat Boy on like the Inquirer
Yeah.
or whatever the fuck the newspaper was at the time,
Real
Yeah.
talk.
get out of me.
Real talk.
Like as like an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, be like, what is that?
There's a bad boy, my.
But I couldn't watch horror movies because reasons. But Unsolved Mysteries was cool because sure. Anyways, I digress. I've droned on
Anywho,
for a long time.
well, let's talk a bit about the movie itself, because we've talked about some of the experiences we've had around it. There's mine. That's a Corona premiere for those of you wondering at home. Delicious and low calorie. Gotta keep this handsome shape. Yeah, and so the movie itself, right? Obviously, probably pretty low budge. It's got that low budge feel to it. But like overall, like a pretty great. Like the camera work is really cool. Like there's a lot of like film school looking, like crazy, like put a bunch of stuff in the foreground. Like it was, I personally think like some of that stuff was pretty revolutionary in regards to like horror. Cause you see a lot of those shots sprinkled in to some future work,
Well,
Do you?
Go ahead.
I was going to say you definitely want to talk about this. Go on.
Well, what was really interesting is that Romero started this company with some people he had been making commercials and industrials with. So he and his friend, they got together and they were like, "Hey, let's make a freaking horror movie." And then they got these other guys together who they had worked with before, and they were like, "Okay, everybody, let's put in $600 a piece." So 10 people put in $600 a piece. And they raised $6,000. And they realized, shit, we need another 6,000. And then they were like, fuck, we need more than that. So they ended up raising like $114,000 for the movie overall, and made over the movie did, not them. Bless.
Yeah.
God bless America.
Hard lesson to learn.
The movie made over 250 times that.
Nightmare situation.
I mean, it's so cool to think about it, but then you're like, fuck, like they totally got screwed. And it's such a travesty. It's such a miscarriage of justice, because I don't think that Romero ever recovered from that properly, like as far as like Well, I guess that wouldn't actually really have anything to do with whether or not people would give him money for movies, but I think he struggled far too much for being somebody who made such a profound impact on the industry.
Yeah, hard agree.
But
He deserved better.
100%.
Hollywood, he deserved better. Now he's gone. Stupid Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood does.
Yeah, so you know, the I mean, we could still kind of stick to the guide rails we have in place, like the, you know, the movie itself. I think in regards to the story that was told, super original. Do either of you have any strong thoughts in one way or another in regards to how the script came to be, or you know, dialogue? I mean, I've got a couple things to talk about, but I'd love
Well,
to hear your
it's
thoughts.
fascinating, and I'll let you take over here, Glenn. But it started off when they first said, "Hey, let's get together and make a horror movie." It started off as a horror comedy, and then it went through like 3 or 4 different iterations. And I'll let you take over from here, Glenn.
It's true. Like you said earlier, Ramiro and his associates were making commercials and industrials while working other jobs too before this, and then they all wanted to make more serious movies and realized that they couldn't really get their foot in the door monetarily unless they did with their resources, unless they did a horror movie. And then they started writing this Night of the Living Dead, like you said, and it was a horror comedy at first, and then it evolved a little bit, and then kind of most of your characters aren't the way they were written in the initial draft. Not Hysteria, of our main lead, and wow, I'm forgetting her character name.
Barbara.
Barbara, Jesus. Sorry. Like, she initially wasn't written that way. She was initially written more proactive and kind of badassy.
So
And
more like a remake.
yeah, exactly. And apparently what happened is when she went to audition for it, she gave them a reading of her like being broken and in shock, which she clearly is in shock the majority of the movie, and they just liked that performance better from her, and they rewrote and not reshot, but just kind of rewrote and just kind of let her do it that way.
Crazy.
Which is, you can debate about. I
Yeah,
like it.
I'm not a fan.
I know I am not in the majority of the three here.
You know, it makes sense though, because like here's what I see, right? Like in the remake of that movie, you've got like Kristen Wiig playing Barbara and being crazy and hysterical and eating the couch cushions. Like that Barbara makes sense to me in that context. But this one just didn't hit home for me, this Barbara, after seeing the 1990 version of Barbara.
Right.
It sounds like
see, you saw that one first
introduction.
Yeah, that was always my Barbara.
And the thing with that too is, like, obviously we're talking about.
Which did you see first, Dee?
I saw the remake first.
Oh, I didn't realize you both saw the remake first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2 completely different decades. You're talking about completely different climates that these movies were made.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that, like, because there's also this thing, well, I love a badass female character. Well, I love a strong female lead, which is somehow turned into like a dirty word in certain circles where it's like, you know what I mean?
No.
I don't think that every character needs to be a strong female lead. Not every lead needs to be a strong female lead, because there exist all types of people in this world. And what are movies if not just a snippet of human reactions in time to different stimuli, right? And not everybody's going to react the same. And you have to respect each individual sneak peek into these universes that we create in film. So she did play that well. And it's really interesting because TJ and he said something, I can't remember what it was. And I said, it feels almost like theater. It feels almost like a play. And he said, I bet they hired a bunch of theater actors. And they sure as hell did. They hired a bunch of local theater actors. They hired a bunch of, amateur actors. And I think that it had that, like you said, it kind of closed that door. It felt very, the music and a lot of the shots, it felt very old school monster movie. And it feels like a transitional piece. It feels like a transitional piece, not just in movies, but in like the state of the world, right? Here you have a group who has and I read an interview, they long hired, they had long since been hiring actors of color as well. So it wasn't like an issue that they were trying to like overcome or anything. They just thought that sorry, Dwayne Reed, is that, am I getting that right? Let me make
Jones.
Sure. Dwayne Jones. Dwayne Jones gave the best performance. Period. End of story. And even though the character was written as a Caucasian male, they didn't change anything to make it fit a black lead. And even along those lines, he was like supposed to be a trucker who was not wildly intelligent. And because he was such an intelligent human, like this man was, damn it, I'm gonna have to find it over here in just a second. He was like working on his MA at NYU in between night shoots.
Crazy.
He spoke several different languages, and he was like, no, I'm not gonna play the character like that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna play him how I think that he would respond to it. So he like switched all the dialogue over.
Love that.
Yeah, Dwayne was like a true academic scholar.
I think I read somewhere he was a professor too.
That might be true. I'm not totally sure.
Dwayne.
I mean, that gets into a very interesting point. Like, throughout the years, Romero has tried to like downplay his social commentary that like clearly is in this movie. Like, I believe some of it might have been just there because of the time they were making it, but like I think Romero is also an extremely humble to maybe like a point of detriment guy. And I understand that. Like, in his later years, he didn't talk ill of Night of the Living Dead, but he didn't like talk up Night of the Living Dead, as in like I think he knew what he was doing at the time. Right. He just won't admit it.
Well, because and
well, definitely,
and that right there too is if he did, like, that shows what a class act he was. In order to not overshadow the fact that this was such a monumental thing, he wasn't saying, I will take credit for casting a black man in, like, he was the first black man to be cast as a lead in a horror film.
Yeah, I don't think he ever did that. Ever was like, I was the man who did this.
Right. Like, what because if that is the case, one could argue that he understood the importance of allowing that to stand alone without trying to take the spotlight on it.
Yeah, definitely could have played that up. It's a good story.
I mean, I'm going to paraphrase, I think, if anybody has seen this or bought this from the Criterion Collection, there's a great special feature where they talk to Frank Darabont, Robert Rodriguez, and somebody else that I can't remember, but I think Darabont said, this is, and I'm paraphrasing here, the greatest colorblind casting ever. Like, it's 1968. It's the year MLK dies. It's a year before the Summer of Love. It's the year where like racial tension in the U.S. is insanely high. Like, right. The highest it's ever been. Like, I'm sorry?
Was Vietnam going on as well?
Sure was. Like, casting an African American as your lead, let alone what he does in the script, is revolutionary. And I don't believe you didn't put it together that like that wasn't a thing that you were doing. Like you had to have been aware.
Or
Yeah.
even some. Go ahead.
It's to the point like it's still a thing that's discussed any like now.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't, but it is.
Or even saying fuck it, like it's a thing to some people, but who cares? Like he was
Exactly.
the best actor. Like
Yeah.
That's exactly why it was the best colorblind casting there was. He was the best actor, so he got the job, and he was the best actor in the cast. Let's be real.
Yeah,
him and the mom,
in the basement, man.
Oh, I mean,
or his speech about the Beaker's Diner, yeah.
And a lot of here on IMDb, it talks about how the character of Ben was originally written as an angry person.
Right.
And Dwayne Jones here again giving some really amazing, given an amazing opportunity and taking that opportunity to shape the role. He expressed concern that having a black man be that angry when he hits Barbara, like how that would be perceived in the United States at that time because racial tensions were so high. This was released shortly after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
There's actually a tidbit about that that's really weirdly serendipitous. Like they were editing this in like spring and got done. And they drove it like, and according to a legend, and this sounds true because nobody's really refuted it, the day they got it done, had it in the can, drove it to New York to see if they could find just a theater that would show it, was the day that MLK got shot.
Wow.
The day.
Crazy.
Which is insane. Like when you say a movie is ahead of its time, like weirdly, this movie filmed basically the tension and the feeling and the frustration and the fear and every other adjective there is and noun for the days it was getting released. Like there is no movie I can think of that is more timely or like truly right before its time than this.
Yeah.
Like again, like up until this point, there had never been an American movie, at least, with a lead African American male outside of Sidney Poitier, and all of those movies were about race relations.
Right, they were specifically cast.
And it was only him. It was only Sidney. Only he could do it because our system was fucking stupid. It's mind-blowing just watching this movie in that context, let alone how it changed horror movies.
Yeah.
And culture.
Well, and we mentioned quickly, what's the mom down in the basement was really good. I thought her character was excellent and how she portrayed them. And then Denise, you had mentioned earlier that Mr. Cooper was the producer of the movie, right? You'd said
he was one of the producers. Here, let me get some names here so we're properly speaking of Dwayne Jones again. I got that wrong. My bad. That was Ben. Marilyn Eastman played Helen Cooper, and Carl Hardman was one of the producers on the film, and he played Harry Cooper. And actually, his daughter Karen Cooper, I believe, was his daughter in real life. There was a lot of like what the production manager was in the movie as well. Like there was a lot of that very low budget filmmaking.
A lot of the zombies were their commercial and industrial clients.
That's hilarious.
Like they were just like, you want to come out and be a zombie, which like again didn't mean that at that time. And then like they talked them into biting into real animal livers and intestines and or ham with
anything to be in the movie.
not all of it was real, but like there's clearly a scene where a guy is chomping down on intestines that like they'd cleaned out, but like to make them look plump. Apparently, I forget which producer it was, but was like filling it with water before the takes and tying it off so it like had
Stuff
texture
in
to
it.
That
it.
stuff smells. We've done it before. TJ and I did it for a
Oh
short.
my
That
God.
stuff.
You don't put that shit in your mouth raw.
No, no, we didn't.
No.
We didn't put it in our mouths. I was doing
Who
effects
doesn't?
on this well, actually the first movie Denise and I produced together, I guess, Sharp.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I also did special effects on that, and we used a real pig heart. We used intestines and a
You poured a
liver.
bunch of like vanilla extract.
Yeah, I
over
poured
it.
I was like, I can't. This smells so bad.
That's it.
I grabbed a bottle of vanilla extract and some Tupperware, and I soaked it in vanilla extract.
Ooh,
Like
that's
it
smart.
was. It was. I mean,
And
it barely helped, but it like cut it enough to where you were like, I'm not gonna choke to death while I work with this now. But it was fucking gross, man. Let me tell you, it's fucking gross.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to
I
all those folks.
I want to talk about how they were actually um very light-handed in that makeup too.
They were.
It felt more like, and again maybe it's because it was originally sort of a ghouls versus zombies thing, or I don't know why, but the characterization of the zombies was more about mannerisms than facial features than strange, appliances, although they did use some, and I think they used like mortician's wax for a lot of those, which was
That
very
tracks.
interesting.
Well, I mean, too, like they say it in the movie. It's the bodies of the recently deceased
Recently, and
and
Yeah.
what's
unburied,
funny,
and that's how you get cheaper zombies, especially in black and
they're
white.
fresh.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all fresh bodies, and then you're a couple like dude that got shot in the face, and guy that got stabbed. Like
I didn't, or somebody who died of a heart attack. I didn't realize until we rewatched it tonight that they also specifically say that in the remake. Bodies of the recently deceased are coming back to life. And I mean, I don't know when that switch happened, or if it happened with a completely different universe where you're like seeing, was it Return of the Living Dead when they're
Return of the
coming up
Living
out of
Dead
the
come up out of the grave. We see
ground?
that a bunch because the rain,
Yeah.
the zombie rain that comes down.
So it's
But
very interesting.
yeah, it is. But and two, like you think about it though, like if you start to do the math, right? How many people are on the planet right now? Like what are there, like 30, 40 million people just in California alone,
Oh,
right? Like
I think there's 7 billion on Earth.
yeah, so there's like
Yeah,
7
like
billion
30.
people on Earth. Like that's living people. In your
Yeah.
standard full outbreak zombie movie, you lose 90 to 95% of human population dies and joins the zombie horde. That's already fucking 7.8 billion people. You don't
Yeah.
need
Stacked against you.
yeah, you don't how many that's just in the last 10 years alone of dead bodies that would come out of the ground. Like let alone any skeletons, things like you get out of control so
It would
fast.
get too crowded.
If you don't wrangle that, at that point it's your 100 billion zombies strong. There's no more
Yeah.
movie.
Hmm.
Everyone dies within a week because the undead would outnumber us fucking 1,000 to 1. Like
Yeah.
or if more, I'm sure more. Like
Oh
there are
yeah.
way more bodies than there are in the ground than there
Because
are on it.
we're talking about bodies from thousands of years.
Yeah.
They're all still here, buried, or I mean, a lot of them have been cremated, but most of them are here.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And
It's
I
too
mean,
much.
if you want to get crazy about it in the zombie verse, there's nowhere you can go if you believe all of the lore, like is it shockwaves, where they can walk across the ocean floor and show up in Florida.
What the
Yeah.
fuck? What?
Yeah, it's an 80s movie that we'll watch later.
We get a little bit of that. We get a little bit of zombie walking on the floor in Land of the Dead, which we're gonna watch
Yeah.
in the last week of July of the Living Dead. Our month long celebration of George Romero and the
7.8
remakes
billion.
and other people, other
Wow.
movies that he created and inspired. You know who I know we talked about, like, we're talking about the cast right now, and I just really I really dislike Barbara in this version of the movie. Again, I know we've established that I saw the remake first, that's my Barbara, that Ripley-esque ass kicking, fucking straighten every man out in the room, final girl Barbara is my Barbara. And then every time I watch this movie, every single time, I'm just like, oh, she just sits on the couch and acts hysterical for an hour and a half.
I mean, like, after the very beginning, where she speaks, and then that one part where she tells him about Johnny getting killed, for an hour and 10 minutes, she says nothing. She does a great job of being catatonic.
She's unconscious for fucking 10 minutes of the film. I mean, yeah. Jesus.
She does a great job at, like, relaying a character of somebody who is just unable to fathom what is happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because now we're kind of seasoned as horror fans in the modern era to have that final girl, to have that strong female lead. And when you look back at classic horror like Night of the Living Dead, and you're like, oh, their female lead sat on the couch and, like, licked the cushions,
and was called.
Then that was it.
What did Cooper say about her that you said, TJ? I think I wrote it in my notes.
I don't remember.
While you say that, I will defend it.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Because
counterpoint.
While I don't think it was the best performance ever, up until this point, most females in horror movies were either shrieking their heads off or were a Dracula bride.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I just expected more, I guess.
And, like, to give this realism, I think truly, like, it's really hard to put yourself into, like, how reality of a horror movie would be. Like, you can't really put yourself into a Freddy movie, because, like, what?
I have no actual frame of reference for what it's like to be hunted by a dream demon.
Exactly. I mean,
Christ, imagine if I did. Imagine if I was like, guys, when I was 12, I was hunted by a dream demon.
Right, exactly.
I killed him with the power of friendship.
It's not real, but, like, it's close to being something that could, in maybe some weird way, happen. Mm-hmm. Like, there is some sort of biological thing that makes people come back. Sure. Like, I think that's why zombies are scary, even though they've been way overdone since 1968.
Take any plague of the last 100 years or so that wiped out massive numbers of people, in current company included, and bring all of those people back to life and have them start to spread that virus.
To be timely, what if COVID made you be like you're on bath salts?
Yeah.
Like that dude in Florida who, like, started to eat people or whatever. I mean, granted, that was, like, I'll shit on Florida, like, people in Florida.
All day.
But, like, if it did that, like, it's crazy, but it could happen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I agree.
Like, I think there would be people who, like, witness their brother die that way, have a guy, like, doing that to their window, smash it in, you get away, like, your mind is just like, boop, I'm done.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're out. Like,
and I get it. I just don't think it needs to be the lead female in the movie.
See, when we get into lighting, I have a theory about how this movie changes protagonists.
We're in it, Glenn. This is a roundtable discussion. Talk about the lighting. Tie it together, man. We don't have to wait. There's no fucking rules tonight, baby. It's July of the Living Dead, man. Strap in, man.
So she watches Johnny die by the ghoul zombie later in life of this movie.
As the ghoul gently lays his head down upon the stone.
I know. Oh my god, it was so great.
It's such a stark difference from the 90 remake. with the resuscitation Amy doll that they got for that fucking scene.
Listen, that,
See,
that it was a good Bill Moseley likeness. I'm not gonna lie. Yes.
I like the original better. Like, I love dummies. They're one of my favorite things in horror movies. I think it's just because they were using the real actor. Like, he did lay him down. Like, obviously he did.
Well, yes.
It's the sound effect.
Down.
It's like the wet melon that they like threw on the ground to get that sound effect of his head getting
Cracked.
thumped.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's saying either one is better. They're both pretty
bad,
pretty silly.
No, I know. But
yeah.
I have a feeling that my role here is to defend the original.
It's not.
versus...
You don't have to
defend it. I know. Defend it with all your might.
Excuse me. Listen, George Romero is a god in this household. So.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
we're in three different households. That's how powerful he is.
I'm hearing you hate him like I hate
Glenn.
John Carpenter.
You're not going to be able to get it off the ground, but nice try.
I mean, I laughed.
Oh really?
I guess I don't know. I'm that guy.
Is this why we're not rating them?
What does that even mean?
Oh, I don't know.
10.
Anyways,
all 10s. Everyone's a 10. Everyone's a 10 except for Survival of the Dead. That's a fucking 4. What a rough one to go out on.
Anyways, we're not in the same city. Carry on.
I actually wrote a paper on this movie in college.
No way. Are you going to read it to us now?
No.
Oh, do you still have it?
I do.
Ooh, you got to send it. You got to send it over. We got to read it. No. Put it in the Discord, Glenn. Do it. Coward.
Not happening. It was for a class that like you had to be in to understand what the fuck I'm talking about.
Oh.
Also, it was college, so I made up a lot of shit. Because that's what college is.
You were like, were you pulling like song lyrics into there, like quoting Creed and stuff?
No.
I tried to pull as much popular media into my papers in high school as I possibly could.
What I like to do is cite my professor in the books that they made us read as much as I can. Anyways, this is for kids to get through college. My theory.
You didn't know you were getting that tonight here on Blood and Popcorn, did you?
The switching of protagonists. So obviously it starts with Barbara and Johnny, with the wonderful shot of a graveyard with an American flag on it. We could talk about social commentary in Vietnam there if you want, or not. It's 1968, whatever. The Tet Offensive just happened. Anyway, we see that Barbara like clearly goes into hysteria, shock, basically the moment she gets into the house. And this is where I get into theory, and I will stop after this. When Barbara's in the house alone, it's lit very weirdly and very like German expressionist movie, like lots of hard shadows and weird lights that like would not be there in real life. To me, that's her fucking state of mind, and it's crazy because she's in this moment out of her mind with grief and fear. So the world she's in doesn't make sense. What's interesting about it is because outside it's very flat. I know this wasn't probably done intentionally or stylistically, but you can read it this way if you want, which
interpret,
I'm doing.
Glenn.
So like when it's outside, it's pretty flatly lit because it's outside and like the sun is the only source of light. But in that, outside, it's very clear what your dangers are and what's wrong with the world. It's zombies. It's these things that are there to eat you. It's very black and white. It's very simple.
Literally.
Once she gets inside, it's very disorienting, and the lights are weird and crazy and like very dark and moody. And then there's even foreshadowing of the taxidermy beasts on the wall, which, if you really want to read into it, foreshadow that like it's truly the beasts inside that are worse.
Oh,
than what's
Glenn,
outside.
you did write a paper on this.
I did write a paper on this.
Jeez.
And then the moment that Dwayne Ben shows up, It's still crazily lit because the lights are off in that house. And when the lights are off in that house, again, it still has that weird, like, expressionistic lighting. As soon as he, like, dispatches a couple, comes inside and boards up the door, he flips the lights on and the lighting gets very flat again. Once he does that is when he becomes the protagonist. And because
Interesting.
once he becomes the protagonist, the lighting becomes very simple because he's in control and he knows what's in here.
Okay.
My theory falls apart after that, but I'm not going to explain why. So,
well,
I mean,
I will. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Denise. No, please.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go.
You'll forget.
No, I won't.
Okay. I was going to offer a little counter to that because I did know there's a very interesting.
I got to be on that
counter to the overall idea, but like, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know if it plays throughout the entire. That could be, and then there was this really interesting group of shots where it's like, fun, and you see everybody in their own solo shot with these like really weird, harsh shadows over their faces. And it was very reminiscent, and I have to wonder if this person didn't take inspiration from Night of the Living Dead of Clue.
Oh.
In that moment where the doorbell rings and they're all in their individual rooms and we're getting all of their reactions as the doorbell continues to ring. And that had those harsh shadows, that really weird lighting where you're like, there's just no way that the light's coming through like that.
No.
Light doesn't work like that.
Yeah. But I thought it was that was very, very interesting to me. And that it really brought to mind another movie 30 years later.
Right.
The magic of movies. Well, I think we should start.
No, what were you going to say that you weren't going to forget about? Was it this?
It's this. Yeah.
Nice.
I think we should start wrapping up the 1968 because we got a whole other movie to talk about here tonight. Sure. So let's. I'm going to give a couple final thoughts and then I'll pitch it to you guys to give your final thoughts. Everything about this movie is super interesting to me because again, I'm not like I'm a bad filmmaker. Like I'm like not bad at my job, but like I'm a bad movie guy because I don't watch classics. Like cinema to me starts at like fucking Halloween. Like that's nothing was made before that, right? Or like whatever came first, like Halloween or Friday the 13th, like whatever. Yeah, so like that's when cinema starts for me. So to go back and watch these movies, really it's a very different experience because I don't have a lot of experience watching these older movies. So when you hear these like crazy scores and this like really melodramatic, like of the time kind of acting, that theater based acting, it's just such a fucking trip to watch, man. Like I enjoy it. Like I really enjoy the original. I've watched it. I'll watch it again. But overall, it's just such a surreal experience for me to watch. Like my brain has a weird thing with black and white cinema that it just something is off with me when I watch it. But yeah, like enjoyability wise, like if you've never seen it, for me, go and see it. Absolutely see it. Find one of the 15 versions that are available on multiple streaming platforms and watch them. Just don't watch the color one, Denise. I know you watched that one. I'm sure you have some things to say about it, but don't watch that one.
I have some
but yeah, Night of the Living Dead. Great. Speaking
please
of
talk
Denise,
about that. And
talk about how bad it was, Denise, please.
I do not recommend the color remastered version because it's not remastered. It's very distracting. There are some very strange moments that happen quite often where you can tell that it's trying really hard. You know, iridescent material, how if you look at it from one angle and another, it changes colors. That's what happens. Barbara, when she's running, her coat is all of a sudden in black and white, and then it's like taupe. But it's like really weird when Dwayne has his hand on the table and he's looking for tools. his left hand is in black and white and everything else is in color, and it shifts a lot.
Yeah.
However they did it, it wasn't done well. So it was not too distracting for me, but I wish I had started on a black and white version. I don't recommend that at all.
I assume it was done hurriedly by some distributor that had bought in the rights
Trying to make money
to run a
Yeah.
DVD of it and needed a hook, and they were like,
I don't-
we'll paint it.
I don't know this specifically, but for a while in the 80s, Ted Turner owned the world.
Yeah.
And one of his things is he owned the rights to a lot of classic movies. And to put them on his...
Turner Classic Movies.
Not that. I mean,
No.
yes, but not that.
Yes, no.
To put it on his station's TBS or whatever the fuck he owned at the time, he took a lot of classic movies because he literally bought them as like a billionaire at the time, one of the few at the time.
Huh.
He spent a lot of money to colorize classic movies like this. I don't remember exactly what else, and I don't know if this was one of them, but it probably was. A lot of movies that got colorized for no reason were because of either Ted Turner doing it or people who wanted to profit off of what Ted Turner had done.
Taking the old
Again,
Grandpa
the
Turner
80s
route.
created great things, but also ruined a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm really irritated with IMDb right now. So
Why?
in our tweet, I did Barbara and Barbara. I did the two spellings of Barbara because IMDb has Barbara spelling BARBRA for the
Right.
original, and then it has BARBARA for the remake. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That makes sense. That's great. But now when I'm like reading some of these trivia things, they're spelling her name BARBARA. I should have looked. Now I'm gonna have to go look at the damn movie and see what she's
Oh,
credited as,
Look
because
at this.
if it has forced me to make a mistake, I will
You're-
be very upset.
The website will never recover. The Twitter is just, the show's canceled.
It's gone.
Denise, you've become
now.
fake news. Oh, look what you've done. The show's canceled. But before we go off the air forever, Glenn, Denise, are you done with your final thoughts on the film?
I mean, I cannot talk about enough how important this piece of cinema is to not just us, of course, but to the genre, and I think to movie making in general. Are there some things that I don't like about it? Yes, but it is also, it wasn't made for me. It wasn't made for me as an audience member, and it wasn't the first one I was introduced to. So I am more partial to the remake. But I love it, and I love everything that George Romero has done, because he was revolutionary, and he just did not get the credit and the accolades that he deserved.
Very well said. Thank you, Denise. Glenn, final thoughts on the movie that made you go to black and white.
Yeah, and thanks. Yeah, this was, like I said earlier, truly one of the first, what I consider modern horror movies I ever saw. So it has a very definite, overwhelming, amazing place in my heart. I also truly do believe it's one of the best pieces of horror. It definitely has its flaws, obviously.
As we all do.
Of course. But it also, for me, was the movie that, like, not only like sparked my love of horror, but it also sparked my need to become a filmmaker, because I saw this and I was like, oh shit, like, you can do this. Like, this wasn't made with like $1 trillion, and like, this was made with a bunch of friends over like months or years.
This is the kind of movies I want to make.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was,
I mean,
this
better, but,
and like,
you know,
early Peter Jackson, where it was just like,
yeah,
you can make movies.
Right.
They can be crazy and gory and nonsensical.
No, is that wrong?
What?
Nothing.
Oh. but yeah, like it gets all the love that it deserves because it did start a genre. It did start like an honest subset of creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Made a
it
new
truly
monster.
deserves it truly deserves all its praise. You really don't hear anyone ever picking it apart too much, and like there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It should be watched. It's a shame it fell into public domain. If you can watch it, watch the best possible version you can. I would say wholeheartedly dismiss any color version you can see of it. It's stupid. Don't watch it that way. It wasn't made that way.
Down. Down vote.
I don't want to give a hot take here. Like, I truly did see the first time the 30th anniversary version that had new footage, not Ramiro approved, put into it. I didn't hate it. But
Get out.
But you should watch the original first and then see where it went after with that, and then don't buy that version. The best version I've seen so far, and again, like, I love this movie a lot, and I'm not trying to like sponsor us, but like the Criterion version that they put out, the Museum of Modern Art had it commissioned, and they got money from the George Lucas Foundation that like doesn't throw out money unless it's George Lucas things.
Wow.
Paid for its restoration. It's great, and they have some great extra features on it that give you insight into it and other Ramiro films if you want. But enough about me liking the Criterion version.
Well, and there you go. Some excellent thoughts on an excellent film by a legend. And we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about another legend's take on Night of the Living Dead. And that legend is SFX wizard, actor, director, writer, all-around great guy, and fellow Pittsburghian, Tom Savini. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And until then... And we are back. Thanks for hanging around, everybody. We got some snacks. We got some fresh beers. We are ready to dive into part 2 of tonight's episode, where we are going to discuss the 1990 remake of the 1968 George Romero classic, Night of the Living Dead, directed by one Tom Savini. Welcome back, guys. I hope you had a fantastic break. I know I did, and I'm definitely not in a massive amount of back pain right now. So that's great. Everything is going great. Denise, I know this version holds a special place in your heart. I know this is always one that you want to watch around Halloween time. Tell us a little bit about this version of Night of the Living Dead.
Okay, well, and not just Halloween time. I know we talked about Halloween too. When I'm like cleaning, trying to get stuff done, I love music, I do, but I tend to put movies on in the background, and that's what I will do busy work too. Night of the Living Dead is one of those movies, the remake. Very interestingly, Tom Savini was supposed to do makeup for, I'm not sure how they met, but Romero wanted him to do makeup for the original Night of the Living Dead, but he couldn't because he was a photographer in the Vietnam War. He was in, I think it was the Army, and he couldn't do it because he was otherwise occupied, which brings the whole thing kind of full circle.
Sure does.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So
it's all connected.
I don't go ahead.
I was to say, not to be too morbid, but that kind of makes sense with his career.
100%. He used a lot of that. Actually, I can't remember where I saw that or where I read it, but he used a lot of that as maybe that's where we saw it, as inspiration, for lack of a better word, for his gore. I think, unless I'm totally making shit up right now, which is entirely possible.
No, he definitely was in Vietnam. Like, you can't come out of Vietnam and not be affected by it, or any war, to be honest. But
but especially that one.
Especially that one.
I don't know exactly how it came about. And I think that's in the documentary too. And we had to rewatch these documentaries and talk about them as well, because they're pretty phenomenal. But unfortunately, this remake, it would seem, is a bit of a sore subject with Tom Savini, because George Romero was not on set during filming. So he did clash a lot with the other producers and did not have his creative vision anywhere close to being realized, like not even like halfway there.
Savini didn't.
Huh?
You mean Savini didn't?
Correct. Savini didn't. I thought you said something about me being muted. I was like, what? Have I been talking to myself this whole time?
And welcome Denise to the show. We've just unmuted her.
Hello there. Welcome to Blood and Popcorn. But it's very interesting to see when you're watching them side by side, or one right after the other, actually. There are so many original shots that Savini used, and then there's several things that are sort of turned on their head. One in particular being Barbara's character. He fought hard. He pushed hard with the producers to make her the survivor and an action heroine. And I think personally that her character arc is one of the better that we see ever, because she is very much Barbara from the 1968 film. She flips the frick out. Like, she loses her shit. She can't speak. She can't answer questions. And then you have Tony Todd coming in. This was his first horror film, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You have Tony Todd coming in and trying to get through to her and trying to ease her into this new world that they're living in. And then something sort of flips for her, a switch flips, and you see it, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel outside the realm of possibility.
It feels earned.
It feels earned. Yes.
Yes.
It feels very earned.
She comes through the fire on the other side.
It
stronger,
feels so
ready to fight.
Knowing that this could be not just as a woman, right? Knowing that there could be something like this that happens. And as we've spoken before, this is closer to home than I think we ever realized. Something
Zombie
like this
ants,
happen.
man.
You freak the fuck out. You can't even imagine what's happening. But if you give yourself a moment, you can push through. You can be resourceful. You can survive, because she becomes the voice of reason. She becomes the person saying, we can just walk right by them.
Such common sense and clarity. And no one listens. What a curse. It's the curse of
DJ Rotell.
Yes, but also I heard this on the radio the other day. It was about Apollo and the fall of Troy, and maybe it was Helena of Troy was given the ability to see the future, but when she didn't do what Apollo wanted, he cursed her by making her ramble, and no one would ever listen to her, believe her. Okay. And that's Barbara. She knows, she sees all, she gets it. She goes through her story almost instantly. She pulls her pants up and says, literally pulls her pants up and says, fuck it, I'm not going to die here today. And if you listen to me, none of you will either. And no one listens. And well, we all know how the movie ends.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Sole survivor.
And we talked about, like, you know, Glenn preferred, I think you said you preferred the car scene in the original.
I do.
There are so many similarities, you know what I mean? Like, so many of the shots, and I think it's such a beautiful, like, when you're remaking something, people always want to have their own mark on it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
But I love,
unless it's the Psycho remake, and then you just want to literally go shot for shot with a different cast and a better camera.
But, like, I mean, that's why Rob Zombie tried to, you know, do Halloween and
failed at it terribly. Sorry, I'm not a fan.
I like how you said trying to do. Like, I don't even think you realize what you just said.
Anyway.
Love Rob Zombie. Huge fan of the music. Huge fan of him as a director.
So you two hate
love a lot.
Miro and Rob Zombie. Got it.
I don't hate Rob Zombie, but I do hate.
The Halloween.
I hate the iterations of Halloween that he made. I do not count those amongst Halloween movies. They don't.
But that's what directors want to do. They want to make their mark, right? They want to have their version of that story told. But it is a beautiful thing when you have. It feels like a love letter to the original. It feels like you are respecting and offering reverence to what came before you and what obviously worked so well the first time. So, like, there are so many shots in this movie that I don't think I realized, because I hadn't, again, like, I watched the fucking remake a dozen times a year.
A lot.
Really?
Like a lot.
I put it like
a year.
It's like one of those I've seen, like, Halloween has been in my recent rotation, because the remake, you can't find it streaming anywhere. I mean, we own it now, but
damn right.
It was like having to pull the DVD out and everything was a whole thing. Lazy,
yeah, but
right?
still support physical media. Support physical media.
I love support. I just bought some DVDs this weekend, but anyway.
Good. Should have bought Blu-rays, but whatever.
it's in my rotation. I'm telling you, it's one of those things that I put on. I've seen Halloween probably at least half a dozen times this year already because I put it on when I'm cleaning.
Yeah.
What?
Like
I am
like
a
a
creature of habit.
yeah, like someone would put on their favorite record or
Their favorite
compact
compilation,
disc,
their
and
favorite
they'd hit
mixtape.
play. Denise just puts on horror movies and lets them play in the background. I'll just be
I
sitting there
mean,
working, and all of a sudden you hear like ah, and I'm like ah. It's just Denise watching fucking
respect
Halloween
where
for the
respect
15th
is
time.
due, and like, I love things to death, but like the only thing I've heard or seen 6 times this year is the Chili Peppers, but that's because I live in Southern California, and you can't play the radio without playing a Chili Pepper song before
Yeah,
a
it's in the
commercial.
bylaws.
Apparently, yeah, that's
It's
6 times.
it's my background noise, man. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I had it on all the time when I was in the basement packing up in LA. Oh yeah, all the time.
Constantly.
The neighbors probably thought somebody was being murdered,
Yeah.
but they never said anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, I should say hi to Steve.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hi, Steve. I know you're home watching right now, so hello.
I meant text wise.
Well, get it out of the way. Maybe he is watching. Maybe he's one of the 7 people in chat.
Hi, Steven.
Well, I think all 3 of us are also in chat, so the 4 people are currently in chat.
Thanks for being here, you 4. We love you.
You're the best, especially
It's
the
true.
2 of you that are bots.
That's not
But yeah, this movie, you said, Denise, this was what I was introduced to. This was the first Night of the Living Dead that I'd seen, and for a long time, actually, I didn't realize that Tom Savini had directed it, because it says at the top of the box, George A. Romero presents. So I just immediately thought, like, wow, what a weird way to make these movies, because Dawn of the Dead, which we're going to watch next week, and Glenn and Denise as well, like, I know, like, this is Dawn of the Dead is in my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
Like, not just in the genre and not just of the Living Dead series, like the fucking, like, I guess that's when cinema starts for me, because that was before Jason Voorhees. So that's when cinema starts for me.
Yeah, Dawn is definitely where cinema starts for me.
Yeah. But I completely forgot what I was going to say. I've lost track. I was talking about Night of the Living Dead.
I was rambling a lot too, so who knows?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't. I didn't know. I thought forever that George Romero just remade his own movie, and
Sure.
and I was like, what a bold move! Like, what a guy to like be like, you know what? I'm not a fan of the original, so I remade it, and that's how I assumed it went down at that young age that I saw the remake.
You never know.
You come to learn.
Before.
You come to learn stuff as you get older. You grow, and your intellect score goes up if you're lucky, and
Or not.
It doesn't for everybody. Some people it goes down, and that's a sad day for them. But yeah, like, so when I watched this movie, I assumed that this was Night of the Living Dead. That this was the one I was supposed to watch. I can't remember who it was. I want to say it might have been like my old friend Rachel Woodworth, who, Denise, you met. She was in Baby Frankenstein. She had the cast on. I want to say she was the one, like, in high school that was like, no, idiot, you got to watch this one. And I was like, oh, all right. Because I think I own a copy of Night of the Living Dead that has a short film on it called Night of the Living Bread.
Oh, what?
If you've never seen Night of the Living Bread, look that up. It's a short film that is Night of the Living Dead, except everything is slices of bread. It's fucking hilarious. It's absolutely brilliant. And look up Night of the Living Bread.
Is it a remake of the original?
Night of the Living Bread?
Or is it, like, did it come out during the Savini?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't remember. I'm going to look it up right now, though.
Watch
Night of the Living Bread. There we are. You can find. It looks like you can find it on YouTube. There's
Epic,
a trailer.
yes, I would say it's horror.
Yeah, Night of the Living Bread looks like it came out in 1990. Yeah. I guess it was part of the Savini DVD then that I bought.
Interesting.
All
Yeah,
right, then.
Night of the Living Bread. Give it a look. It's worth it.
It was on the DVD?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's how I got a hold of it.
I'm not going to say that I rented 3 of the Blu-rays of this remake, and none of them had that on that, but all right.
Oh, wow. Maybe it wasn't. I could be lying, honestly.
No, I said Blu-rays, though. DVDs and Blu-rays aren't
yeah.
always the same.
Epic, I'd consider Brightburn horror. It's just
Yeah,
superhero
totally.
horror, but I would 100% consider that horror.
I'm not going to lie, like, not to diatribe, but yes, Brightburn is super fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
so it is definitely horror.
I want to do
haven't
that
seen
on the
it.
show. I'd like to see that. I haven't seen it.
If
I haven't watched
Superman was
Brightburn.
evil, fuck our world.
Oh, it's done.
100% horror.
Yeah, go watch
Anyways.
Invincible. It's great.
Sorry, yes.
No.
To answer that question, Epic.
Yeah. But yeah, so this Savini version, obviously, Denise, you said there are some pretty noticeable differences. A lot of them being in the cast, some decent similarities. But I think one of the best things for me on this one was we got like zombies, like the zombies we now know, we now hold to be self-evident and whatnot. Like the zombies that I love personally, like Savini's zombies are my zombies. I know Nicotero trained under Savini and went off to do The Walking Dead. I don't like The Walking Dead zombies. They were birthed in Land of the Dead, and I hated the zombies in Land of the Dead. They looked plastic, and I wasn't a huge fan. Go ahead, Glenn. No, please.
I was gonna say that's interesting because I forget where I saw this or read it, but apparently when they were making the first season of The Walking Dead, which is where I stopped watching it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Books are better. Read the books. Buy the hardcovers. There's like 14 or 16 of them. They're fucking great.
Or just when Frank Darabont leaves a project. Go with him. Anyways.
Believe me!
Apparently, when they were coming up with the rules of how their world was going to work, they went to the original and they were like, no, it has to be Night of the Living Dead rules. And like, apparently that's exactly how The Walking Dead at least started. I don't know. Again, I have only seen 1/8 of the canon they've put out.
I think he's talking physically, though. Like the applications.
Oh, yeah. I'm fine with their rule set. It's the makeup job that I don't like. I don't like.
Oh,
yeah.
The facial applications.
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, it's the same in Land of the Dead. It's the same makeup because it's.
They
Greg
remind
Nicotero.
me of the which I wasn't a huge fan of either, like the Buffy vampires.
Yeah.
The really big furrowed brow kind of lines. That's
Yeah.
what they remind me of.
the jaunt-faced ghouls.
Yeah, I just wasn't a fan. And when Land of the Dead came out, I was in. We'll talk about this in fucking 3 more weeks, I guess. But Land of the Dead came out, and there's a lot, and again, we'll get into that in the 3rd week, which would be Day of the Dead, because Land of the Dead pulls a lot of script elements from the original Day of the Dead script, which if you can find it on the internet, read it. It's like fucking 280 pages long, fucking massive 4-hour movie, fucking dope.
Wait, which is Day or
the
Land?
Day of the Dead script. But
sure,
the Land of the Dead uses a lot of the tricks from that draft that we didn't get at all in Day of the Dead. But then reeling it back to Dawn is the best, and then here we are again at the Savini remake, which to me is it fits right into the world that George created, and I'm sorry that Tom didn't like it.
I think that he I don't know if
he hates it, and he hates John.
I don't
Carpenter,
think he
Denise.
hates
I don't know what to say.
End product. I think that because it was such a, what it seems like is it was such an uphill battle in trying to get his vision on the screen. It's a sore subject for him because according to an interview that, and this little tidbit ended up on IMDb, only about 40% of what he wanted on screen ended up on screen. So as you know, as a creative, it's very hard.
Yeah,
bean counters got in the way
to see. I mean, when you
fucking hate beans, man.
I like chili though.
Not in my beans. I don't like beans and chili. It's a fun fact.
When you have, and we've seen it too, when you have studio executives or producers who are not creatives, but they're looking at it from a bird's eye view, it is a very, very difficult minefield to traverse because they're looking at it with completely different glasses than you. You know what I mean? Like they are looking at it from the,
Theirs are made of concrete. Yeah, I get it.
but like they're looking at it from a monetary
because that's the thing, right? Like the movie has to make money or you don't get to make another movie.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So they're like, they serve a purpose, albeit I'm not a huge fan of hard disruption. I think 40% of the movie ending up on screen is way too much control. I'd be very curious to see, or at least like see the boards on the full Savini cut to see what would have been different. I think that'd be very interesting to understand.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because like, to me, that movie's near perfect. So what is
as a fan,
it's always like, what does Savini's cut look like? And would I like it? Would I even like it?
Stephen King, what was it? Is it that he is not a fan of the original It?
I don't think he likes any of the movies that get made about his books.
And it's perfection to me. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird. It's art, right? And art is different for the artist.
Yeah.
And what we
get the original is art.
It's different.
Remake isn't.
And what you get out of it is different. So it's a anyway, I digress.
And that's probably why I'm a fan, Glenn. I think you jokingly hit the nail on the head, for me at least. The original is art. Like it's a piece of modern art. Right? Like it exists in its own category of art, and it's been proven.
But it wasn't made that way, which
no
weirdly makes it more art.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of art. Like I appreciate it, I like it, but I'm not like, I don't go to museums. Like I'm not that guy. I just don't like. I respect to the medium, but I'm just not that guy. I like the movie version of Night of the Living Dead, which was the Savini version.
This could be because I've had a reasonable one beer.
Slow down, Glenn.
Oh, the song even fits to my analogy here. The original Zombie by the Cranberries is art, but the Bad Wolves remake is a fucking banger.
Dude, it is unquestionably the superior version of the song. And the story behind that's crazy too, because she was supposed to sing on that track.
She was.
Sad. So fucking sad.
Heartbreaking.
Sorry.
Also,
weird connection I made. But I also
love
Zombie.
I mean, listen, I have to disagree with you though. It's all fucking art, okay? It's not like, if you want to say the first one is fine art, it's all fucking art. It's all being created. So don't shit on it, Glenn.
I'm not.
Yeah, Glenn, get the fuck out of here.
Whatever, you're the ones that shit on the original Romero version.
I didn't shit on anything.
I didn't shit on anything. I just didn't like Barbara's character choice.
I didn't shit on anything you said I hate, by the way.
I will, however, punch you in the face next time I see you.
Damn. Which will be next month when we take Blood and Popcorn live on tour, coming to the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. No, we're not doing any of that. That's not a real thing.
In the Octagon match, Denise Pantoja and the reflecting board that is Glenn.
You might win if you blind me.
But yeah, love the effects. Big fan, as I said.
Absolutely.
20 minutes ago when I kicked off.
They fucking better be. It's a
tirade.
Savini helmed movie. Like,
ooh, he had to cut a lot of stuff out too to not get an NC-17 rating.
Oh, now it's starting to make sense why he doesn't like it. He made a great horror movie. and the fucking MPAA fucked it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Stupid. I'm gonna make my own rating system, and it's gonna be called. You should just watch the movie, and that's like it's gonna be like watch it, or don't watch it, or like, I mean maybe watch it if you want, and those are the 3 rankings, and that's it, you know.
It's funny.
They can be cheated too. It's dumb. It's so dumb. Sorry, go on, G.
It's dumb.
There have been movies. If you look into like how some movies got away with some things, there were some movies who like the MPA rejected the initial cut and they resubmitted the same cut, and the MPA was like, "Great," even though they like put in notes like, "We cut out this," and like they didn't.
Right.
Oh, yeah, didn't The Shining say it was like fucking
Yes. When The Shining came out,
paint or something?
It was specifically the trailer, I believe. Like the trailer was just the opening of the elevators and the blood came rushing out.
Blood, right.
The MPA was like, you can't show blood in trailers. This was like obviously not now. And Kubrick famously, apparently, this is all hearsay according to me because I wasn't born yet. He was just like, no, that's rusty water. Like,
and they went, works for us.
And they're like, all right.
And then the public went, oh my God, is that blood coming out of that elevator? And he was like, ha ha.
Did you read the book or watch any of the other parts of the movie? Like rusty water? What is this? It's not Dark Water from 1988 in Japan. Great movie, but it's not that.
Or Dark Waters, the fantasy pirate themed animated series from the early 90s. That's right.
I've seen that.
It's fucking great. Get with it. Get with the game.
I will say, do watch Dark Water in Japan.
I will.
Not the Jennifer Connelly remake.
I won't watch that one.
Connelly.
Not that one. Never that one.
Or whatever. Anyway.
Denise, do you have any other fun tidbits about this version of the film?
Yeah, actually, Savini and the special effects team intentionally kept the effects restrained in this one, even though they had to cut a bunch of stuff out, as they felt anything excessive would be disrespectful to the original film. So they wanted to keep everything realistic, and they used inspiration from real autopsies, forensic pathology textbooks, and that's where you have, I think, some of the Savini added that autopsy cadaver, the one that's walking and with his suit on backwards. That was one of the things that he added that wasn't in the original script.
That's
I gotta be honest. Like, I would have deducted a point or half a point for that application. That's not very good.
What did they cut? Like, nothing seemed wildly excessive to me.
I think it's on the original, on the documentary on the DVD. So
sure. I'm like, I know you don't know the answer, but like that's what I'm.
Scoop that.
Like they were trying to be restrained, but they still had to cut it. Like, did the MPA not see Day of the Dead, which was pre this?
Nope.
Like
they said
again. You know what? Honestly,
he literally rolls over and just like like.
I feel like it's a subjective thing.
Yeah, Day of the Dead is a fucking murder scene. It's
hard to watch.
It's
like
horrifying.
I kind of don't like it because it's so grim.
Yeah, it's very grim. It's fucking dark.
I like it. Don't fucking twist it.
Glenn hates George Romero.
Fuck you. No.
I'm gonna make a shirt. It's gonna be up in the merch shop eventually. It's gonna say Glenn hates, and then it's gonna have a list. Like those list shirts where it's going to say John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Quentin Tarantino, George Romero.
I've never shit on Tarantino. I haven't actually shit on anyone.
You haven't.
You've shit on everyone.
That's the point of the shirt. That's why the shirt's so funny. It's going to be a bestseller.
Hold the clips. I haven't shit on anyone.
Patricia Tallman was more of a stunt woman than an actress at the time, and she actually went to college with Savini.
She's fantastic in this movie.
She's
really fantastic. Didn't we accidentally see her in a play a few years back with David Blue?
Who is this?
It was I don't know if she was in the play with David Blue. Patricia Tallman, she played Barbara. I don't know if it was in the play, but it was like a sci-fi Showcase,
Yeah, that's what it was.
and she was in one of the other ones.
But she's great, and like, there's a lot of great actors in this movie.
Fabulous.
Let's talk about the cast a little bit, guys,
Tony
because
Todd.
you got fucking Tony Todd in this movie,
Tony fucking
who
Todd.
became a horror icon after this.
And who and what an amazing successor.
Yeah, his
Dean
performance
Reed
is
actually read for this
nuanced.
part.
Oh, would you
Lawrence
say there, D?
Fishburne read for this part. Like
Larry the Fish?
Larry the Fish.
Larry Fishburne from
Larry
Nightmare on
Fish.
Elm Street 3.
Or Apocalypse Now, if you watch normal movies.
Was he Larry Fishburne in that as well?
No.
Oh,
Did
I think he was.
Is he
Larry
credited as
Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne in?
I'm pretty sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He
I'm gonna look it
lied
up.
to work on Apocalypse Now, but whatever. His age.
Oh,
he
funny.
lied about it, whatever.
So-
No, because whatever.
TJ, you have some interesting, very interesting information for us, right? About
Do I?
one of the actors.
Oh
in the movie?
God. Oh God.
Oh my God! Did you forget already?
No, I didn't. The guy that plays Tom, William Butler, ended up going off to be like a big contributor to the horror community overall. Old Billy Butler, as he was called. I don't think he was ever called that. I don't believe that was accurate. He created the Ginger Dead franchise. Wrote a bunch of that. He did a Demonic Toys movie, which if you're a Demonic Toys fan from like old Full Moon days, like that's exciting. He wrote the last two Return of the Living Dead's, Necropolis and Rave to the Grave. He's directed a bunch of stuff, produced a bunch of stuff. Like Cat went off, like did like a bunch of Disney TV series and shit. Like crazy career on this cat.
He was in
all from Night of the Living Dead.
Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Yeah, he's credited as trivia wise as being the only actor to ever be in some form of media, be it film or television, with Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, and Freddy Krueger.
That's crazy.
Because he was apparently in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, which if anyone can find that anywhere, it's a trip. It's a big trip. But yeah, this whole fucking cast was baller, man. You got a young Bill Moseley in there, who I'm always delighted to see. Glenn, who was your did you have a standout here as the kind of the person who was who hates this movie and hates Tom Savini? Did you have a standout performance here from this one? Anyone that you felt personally maybe brought something better to the performance, like not necessarily better or worse, but like elevated a character possibly from the original?
Oh no, I just shut it off and watched the original again
Wow.
because I hated it so much.
Okay.
I knew it.
No, I mean the cliche answer, it's Tony Todd. Like
Yeah.
it's Tony Todd.
Tony fucking Todd.
Just like Dwayne Jones, it's the same character. It was perfect casting.
Yeah.
I as watching this again, I think this is my third or fourth time seeing this version, not the 150th version this year. Watching it like Denise, which is crazy, but
Listen,
admirable. I appreciate it. I don't know which was better casting. Like obviously Dwayne was like revolutionary and like clearly the best actor of that cast. But Tony Todd in this, it's Tony Todd. Like,
And I really do
I don't,
think it brings.
I don't know. Like I can't answer that.
Well, I think he brings. I do believe that Tony Todd brings another layer of that character. Like we see a little bit of it in the original, but he really gets to play with that because like the performance was very emotional, and
yes.
you could see the frustration and the fear and the sadness. Like the dude processes a lot with his face in that movie, and I think he crushes it.
Well, I agree, but like in the original, like it was scripted, but like a lot of it was improv.
Mhm.
And like again, like the Beaker Diner scene, I know it's like hinging on this one thing,
Yeah.
but like again, in the special features, depending on what version you watch, like Darabont, Frank Darabont, like a fantastic writer, let alone director, thinks he could have been up for an Oscar for that scene alone in 1968, just for that. Like, he
Wow.
says it. He's like, if this would have been an A picture, Dwayne Jones would have been up for an Oscar. And I agree. He, like, clearly he's a theater actor, and he's like giving this like heartbreaking soliloquy about like how awful watching what the fuck he just saw was. But I agree, like, the movie like stops, the air is sucked out, and Dwayne Jones gives that amazing dialogue there. And I'm not saying Tony Todd didn't do an amazing job, because he did. That's why I'm conflicted. Because Tony Todd, like, the entirety of the movie was Tony Todd.
Well, Ben is a different character. He's a very different character in this movie, and I think that's what Tony Todd does better, because Barbara in this movie is the true protagonist. Like, it's her story, and everyone else is there to support it. Where the original was Ben's story, and everyone else was there to support it. But you know, I think that looking at it from that angle, definitely you look at Tony Todd's performance a little differently. I guess too, like, if you'd gone from someone who'd seen the original and then watched the remake, I wonder if they would have that same reaction to how I reacted to the remake and Barbara's original portrayal, because it's like would, you know, because the character in the original, Ben, is you know, he's crushing it. Like, you know, he has that moment, and it's this really amazing moment, but he's very in charge. He's very together. Like, he leads that group. He's calm, and he's collected. He's not as emotional as Tony Todd's Ben is.
No.
Like, he has a moment, but he's a strong person, and he's like, I got to keep this shit together because I got to save these people. But I think it was really interesting to go to support Barbara's journey and flip that script.
And that's what I was going to say. He's very calm in the 68 version. He's very calm. He's got it together. He's the one driving the ship. And like you thought, Glenn, where it flipped, where when he came in and he turned on the light, he became the protagonist. It's the opposite in the remake.
For sure.
Yeah.
Where, you know, he is a strong, solid character, but with his support, because he was much more, because he's more emotional. Like, they played it in two totally different ways, which was phenomenal. And it did what it needed to do in each time. He's more good damn it, what was I thinking? He's more nurturing almost of Barbara.
Sure.
And he allows her to take over as the protagonist partway through. And even though he's still leading the charge and he's making these decisions, she is the one who's very calmly saying, this is what we need to do. I've got the right plan. And yeah, he is like TJ, you know, with the tear when he's talking about what he has seen. You know, Tony Todd does grab a very different aspect of Ben's character.
Yeah,
it's an interesting flip. Like, it truly is. I think that's where the two, you can argue about the gore and the color and whatever else you want to talk about, but like, I think that truly is where the two movies are mirrors of each other.
Yeah,
they're similar, but it's backwards.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, they're not the only two characters in this movie. Like, there's some really interesting and very colorful folks that populate this world. You know, the Coopers are really interesting. I mean, I think the OG Cooper is the one that I would probably want to punch in the face the most. You know, they make modern Cooper, I think, a little more. I mean, he's still a piece of shit. Like, don't get it mixed. Like, Cooper is an asshole and he deserved what he got. but like he's also a little more relatable. Like it feels more like it feels more like he cares about the family downstairs, because he loves them, as opposed to the original, who felt like it was like the 50s and like this is my responsibility, but like I'm gonna go get a pack of cigarettes and never come back. Like he's that kind of dad. And I just wanted to I wanted to punch him repeatedly. Like when Ben let loose, I was like, this is how this goes. This is good. This guy's a dick. And then you like the complete swap. Like you had Tom, as he came to be called. And what was her name? You keep correcting
Judy
me.
Rose.
Judy Rose. In the most awkward kiss in the history of cinema.
Do as I say.
Do as I say, Judy Rose.
Interesting thing to me is how we have these characters from the 68 version, and we have taken some of these characters' personalities and split them.
Yeah.
So in the remake, you have Barbara, and some of her personality went to Judy Rose in the remake, and then some of Ben's personality went to Barbara. And I don't know what the fuck happened to Mrs. Cooper, but I personally preferred the woman in 1968. She was like, look,
hands down,
we may hate living together, but dying together would be worse. I'm like, damn, she did not just
G'd
fucking
up, hardcore thing to say.
I don't want to die here with you, asshole.
Yeah.
It's been bad enough living
woman.
with you. Like, how much do you detest a person when you say, like, it's been shitty enough living with you, I will not also die with you? Like,
awful. What? Heartbreaker.
Non-heroes. Helen from the original is my favorite character.
Yeah, same. Hard same.
Fabulous.
Like,
yeah, she's great.
Her sarcastic / you're a fucking idiot is like, mwah.
He stands up to him in 1968. Yeah. She's much more subservient in 1990.
Yeah.
Much more subservient. Until she throws a music box at his head.
Yeah, she gets one in. The daughter was interesting because in the remake, I don't know how old she was in the remake, but she's dressed like she's like 11.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks like she's like 30.
That's the thing I don't like about the remake the most.
Yeah,
the daughter?
It's her wardrobe. I don't get it.
It's so weird. She was born in 76 in Pittsburgh. Denise, on your birthday, actually, June 17th. But she was born in 1976 in Pittsburgh. And then that came out in 1990. So that would put her at what? 34? 24?
76.
She was born in 76.
14 years old.
Oh, 14, really? 76. Sorry, she was 14 years old there. That's an old looking child.
That poor child.
That child
looked like 14.
She walked right out of that place, right into the local bar, bought a pack of smokes, had a draft.
With the braces,
had a
didn't
Bud Light draft.
She did. She had a retainer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a retainer. What a horrible way to die. Death by retainer.
Her dress, I don't get it. Like,
I don't get it. It was like a throwback to the original, but it made no sense for the time.
Every time I see it, all I can hear is Austin Powers' frilly lace cravat. Like, why the fuck was she wearing this?
Someone gift that.
Like, why? What? Like, it made... She wasn't wearing that in the original. She was wearing just like a sundress in the original, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a thing that... Again, I believe the girl they cast in that was closer to the age of what she was supposed to be, but like it was just like a sundress. Did it have like?
I don't
know. I don't remember, Glenn.
But like in the remake, it was like a full on like down to here like doily that they put a fucking head hole into. She could put it on her head.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird choice. It was a real weird character choice.
Because it was supposed to be contemporary. It was supposed to be 1990, like, right?
I think so, yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, like the vehicle didn't scream late 60s to me.
Then, like, I mean, yes, I wasn't exactly remembering in 1990, but like girls didn't wear that then.
I don't know.
You know what I'll say to
Or
wash the
Ashley was
taste
big
of
in the
that out of your
90s,
mouth?
so maybe.
Let me say 2 words that'll wash the taste out of your mouth. Bill Moseley. Again. But I'll say this. Both Johnnies, very good. I really like OG Johnny, and I really like Bill Moseley. I like Bill Moseley better because it's Bill Moseley.
You like OG Johnny?
I like OG Johnny. He's just weird enough to
I think
remind
he-
me of Bill Moseley.
I think he worked as her brother.
That's why.
Interesting.
Was tormenting her.
OG Johnny is my least favorite character of the OGs.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
We've never been more separated. The show's over. This is it. Last
I
ride.
felt like honestly Judy was a little useless for me in the original.
Judy phoned that performance in. Either that or she was smoking the reefer too much. She was a little laid back. She's like,
She was.
Tommy, I gotta get, I'm going with them. She gets him. She's like, I'm going with them. Just like floats across the room. Mr. Cooper's like overacting his ass off, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Everything's like, why? And then she just floats out of the room and into the truck.
It's true. I mean, I think the only reason is because, like, she's in the OG for like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah. And half of it's sitting on the arm of a couch being set dressing while the other actors work.
You're supposed to be pretty, and then you're going to become ham with Bosco syrup on it in a fucking minute when you go outside and get burned up in a truck that doesn't match.
I've got a little interesting tidbit here.
Hit us, sock it to me.
So Tom in the remake wears a T-shirt with the Iron City Beer logo on the front.
Ooh.
This is the same drink consumed in the original Dawn of the Dead, 1978, by Redneck Militia.
Oh, it was like Dawn. I was like, wait a minute.
The original Dawn.
Yeah.
And it is
I've seen
also the same brand of beer that George Romero's production company had produced a commercial for in their early years.
Love it. Nice.
Love that.
Nice tidbit there, Denise.
Love that journey for us. Thank you.
What a good journey. Well, guys, I think we're coming towards the end of the show here. So let's get some final thoughts out on Night of the Living Dead. Denise, I'm going to finish up with you. Okay. So I'm going to start with Glenn. Glenn, final thoughts on this version of Night of the Living Dead.
No, I love Night of the Living Dead, the original, obviously. I can't argue that I don't. I don't know about my other cohorts here who clearly love the remake made by not Romero, but whatever.
It was presented by Romero. It counts.
Continually pitting us against the original.
Yeah, Glenn.
We love them both.
We love them both.
Sure.
It's the Romero multiverse, Glenn. Get on board.
I am. This will be the director that you can't spin that I hate. Because I won't. I'm just going to leave that sit for a second.
Romero has a question mark on the t-shirt. It's the last one. It says George Romero question mark.
Gonna hate all of you. Yes. Night of the Living Dead, again, is a seminal piece of work. It's where zombies that we know as modern Americans started. It's important. There's a reason it's in the
Library of Congress?
The Library of Congress, the National Archive, and the Museum of Modern Art. It's for a reason. Mm-hmm. The remake is good. It's one of the few that can hold a candle, in my opinion, to its original. I don't personally think it's as good, but it's definitely worth watching. It's definitely worth of praise. Uh, I think Savini and company, even if he disavows it to some extent, is worth its admiration. Um, watch them both, buy them both, but definitely buy the original so the rights holders can get their money back, because I think they have the rights again.
Do they? I
I
guess do
think so.
your research on. We could, Glenn, can you do some research for us and let us know in the Discord? Like, hey, make sure to buy this version.
Yes,
You can do research because I know.
I can. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to say it out of the.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah, you know, my thoughts on this are I love it. I love it, super love it. Big fan. This was the one that introduced me to the world that I now hold so dear. So
The
big
remake.
thanks. Yeah, yeah, big thanks to George for presenting and for Tom for making and for everybody that did it. It's a great movie. It's a great zombie movie. It's classic.
It is.
But I agree with Glenn. I think you should absolutely watch the original, find the best version, join the Discord, and learn what that is for the two of you still in chat, and go enjoy them both. Enjoy them both for what they are, because they're both very unique and very fun, and very important movies to the genre, and a very important movie in the original to the world of cinema in general. Denise, thoughts, final thoughts on the 1990 Tom Savini remake?
I mean, obviously, the 1990 remake has a very special place in my heart. Um, I love zombies. Zombies have become a huge part of my life. Take that as you will. Um, it's just it. The genre means a lot to me, and Romero is at the cornerstone of that. So he rewrote the script, he EP'd it, um, and Savini being a part of it was, I'm sure, very special for them, and it's very special for me. I'm just a huge fan of it. I love Barbara. I absolutely um, adore Patricia Talman, and I love her journey as a character, and I love how realistic it feels, and how I've said it before, but how it really makes you. It's not like you have some girl who obviously has had weapons training for some reason and is like really good at martial arts and can totally like kick somebody's head off. Like, some of the heroines in movies are a little far outside of the reach of a normal person, and it's like, this is a study in how people would react in these intense situations.
Yeah,
These,
adaptation, man.
yeah,
Barbara
in this
adapts to the
end of
situation
the world,
around her.
she does. She is able to pivot. She figures it out. She doesn't like all of a sudden have like crazy martial arts skills, or like she's a pretty decent shot. You know what I mean? It's not like she's like headshot every time, total marks person, but it feels attainable in these like desperate end of the world situations where you're like, how would I react? How would I survive? And I really appreciate that, because especially with like when Wonder Woman came out, everybody was like, finally we have a hero to look up to. Women have somebody. And I respectfully disagree. I had plenty of women to look up to. We've had plenty of women to look up to. We've had Ripley. We've had Barbara. We've had Buffy. We've had the original Wonder Woman. Like, we've had plenty of women who have paved the way. Any fucking final girl in horror. Horror has been overlooked so much, and I think that this is, one of the better representations of a final girl. Um, and I'm just a really big fan of it, and a big fan of the original as well. Um, I think that there are some very, very interesting similarities and very, very interesting departures. and I digress. And I love, love, love them. And I love George Romero. And thank you to the people who created this. Thank you to Dwayne Jones, who did such an amazing job. Judith O'Day, who also did an amazing job as Barbara breaking down.
Hashtag not my Barbara.
I'll say this. I think interesting, and I didn't think of this until you just said this. I think what these two actors did, was create the gamut of what could be the reality of the reaction to this in real life. And one is the like, oh fuck, I have to shut down. My brain can't deal with it. And the other part is, oh fuck, I'm breaking down. My brain has to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like I think I honestly didn't think of that until you just like pointed this out. Like I think that's truly like really where the human through line of like what would happen.
Yeah.
And what a great representation
in the same character.
If you don't deal with it, you could die.
Yeah.
She gets eaten, right?
Yep,
if you
by her own brother.
Find a way.
Yeah.
If you find a way to push through, if you're able to, you just might survive.
Yeah.
So it's like a really great life lesson as well.
Right. Taking the deep cuts of Night of the Living Dead. And that's it. That's our show, everybody. That's weekend 1 of July of the Living Dead. Thanks everybody for hanging out here. Denise, tell the folks at home where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me at Denise Pantoja on the Twitter and the Instagram and the Twitch. Resident Diva will be back tomorrow night. That's exciting. Then I'm the Demogorgon on TikTok.
Excellent. Glenn, what about you, man? I just put it all in chat, but where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Movie Master, or if you want to follow somebody who eats out a lot, but also makes some food that these two give me shit about personal life.
Only for himself.
At Glenn with 2 N's, because that's the only way you spell Glenn, _Akers _
Yeah, go check them out if you haven't already. Guys, I'm at TJ Rotell, wherever popular internets are sold. Be sure to come by next weekend.
Oh no,
we're going to be...
oh no.
Oh no, what happened?
Okay.
Oh, you're back.
Wait, we're back. Wait, it's...
Oh no, we're all frozen.
Twitch is clocking. Twitch is clocking. It's back. Wait, is it?
Are we back? No.
It's frozen again. Something's happening.
I keep making terrible faces.
I wonder, has it gone?
We're back. We're back.
Are we back?
I think so.
Is it, hello? Can everybody hear us?
We're here.
Hello? Okay, yeah, it looks like we're back. So we'll wrap this up quick. Yeah, next weekend we're going to be doing Dawn of the Dead, the original Romero version, and the Zack Snyder?
It is.
Zack Snyder version, penned by James Gunn. Both excellent movies. Be sure to check those out. Check the Discord. No. Oh, thanks for the sub, Mo. This show is cursed tomorrow night. Davis and I are taking another night off. We'll be back next weekend. Dawn of the Dead next weekend. Bonus round will be starting back up next week. And more Dead by Daylight Wednesday night. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday night. Have a great weekend. Denise, take us home.
May the blood flow freely and your heart stay black. Thanks for joining us for Blood and Popcorn.
Good night, everybody.